Hello and welcome to Tête-à-Tête, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest today is Bassem Youssef. He was a heart surgeon turned comedian who became famous a decade ago during the Arab Spring in his native Egypt. As such, he became a thorn in the side of the authority. He decided to leave. He is now a US citizen, and he's currently having his second coming, if I may use the expression, as a stand-up comedian in English. His Middle East tour is now in full swing across the US, the Middle East, and Europe. He joins us from Dubai. Bassem Youssef, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Your current show, doesn't touch upon the war in Gaza. However, you've struck a deep chord in the Muslim world by speaking out vividly about it. You said that this was out of anger, frustration, as the way the conflict was being depicted in the West, especially in the Western media. Do you still feel angry as we reach nearly 6 months of war in Gaza?
Yes, because it seems that no matter how much of a kind of atrocities and how much of aggression and how much of unfair this war has become, and how entitled and aggressive Israel does, it seems that people kind of like choose to turn away and turn a blind eye for actions that could only be described as crimes of war or war crimes. But it seems that it's very frustrating to see that the freedom of expression and the fairness and the justice that the West promised the world is very selective when it comes to Israel.
But clearly, I mean, don't you think that the solidarity that Israel received after the October 7 massacre is vanishing in Europe, even in the US? You see rising tensions between the Biden administration and Israel. You even heard Donald Trump in a recent interview said Israel needs to make peace because it is losing a lot of the world. Don't you think that things are changing?
Yeah, it's sad it took 32,000 people to be killed to get to that. It seems just like Israel was again with its entitlement. I wonder, it's like why it took that long, and what was the threshold that people would say anything. But even like the Biden administration, what did they do? A couple of days ago, they abstained from a non-binding Security Council resolution, which really doesn't mean anything. And there is a bigger issue here. It's not about the Gaza war. This is what they want you to believe. It's about Gaza, about Palestine, about October 7th. There's a much bigger problem at hand here, is that the kind of hold that Israel holds on Western politics. I don't, and I said that before in an interview, I don't understand why my US representatives are showing more loyalty to Israel more than they do to their own country. I am a new citizen in the United States, and it seems that I'm more loyal to my new country than those people where they were born on its soil, and they're representing its special interests. But it seems that they are representing a foreign country's interest, a country that is being financed and funded by our tax money. And at the end of the day, they seem that they're loyal to Israel more than they are loyal to the United States, which is really heartbreaking.
At the onset of an interview you gave to British TV host Piers Morgan, you snapped, used black humor obviously, that Palestinians are hard to kill, and you know it since your wife is herself Palestinian. I understand her family is still in Gaza. Can you tell us how they are right now?
Well, my family right now, her family is all of her cousins, all of her uncles, and their families, and their kids, and their wives. They're all cramped in one apartment, in one building, with 35 other families. And that building is not safe because, Israel kind of bombed them from the sky. So hopefully they will be safe, and they will not be, the whole family will not be annihilated with one bomb. These people were living all over Gaza, and they were pushed to Rafah, to the border with Egypt. And these people have had dreams, had lives, had families, had homes, and all of them were destroyed, and they were now cramped into one apartment. And this is how long it took America to even consider to look at Palestinians as human beings, that they shouldn't be killed that fast or that rapid, which is, again, very sad.
You and others have used the word genocide to describe what Israel is doing in Gaza. However, there was no genocide in Gaza on October 6. Isn't Hamas to blame for what is happening to the Palestinians?
You can blame Hamas for whatever you want, but again, this is a kind of a distraction of the real issue. And if the word genocide bothers you, we can use other words. How about too much killing? How about too much murder? Would that be like a better word to describe it? Because this whole thing about wasting people's time, about finding definition that doesn't mean anything, it's just like really counterproductive. I don't know what's a genocide. Is it like 50,000? Would that be considered a genocide? Is it 35,000? I mean, what is the threshold where we can start doing a genocide? And you can blame Hamas all that you want, but like I find it very hypocritical that you have the Prime Minister Netanyahu bragging about financing Hamas in 2019, the Likud party meeting, and then they come here and cry about Hamas. Hamas is a product of inhuman conditions, and when you treat people like animals, you shouldn't be surprised if they revolt against you as animals.
Right. You've become a voice for those Palestinians. Does it make you comfortable? I mean, you're a comedian. You're speaking about politics, very dramatic issues. Are you comfortable in that role or not?
Well, I mean, it is very difficult to have that kind of expectations laid on your shoulders. But I mean, I come to your show to promote my show, and you are the one who's asking me about the Palestinian issue. I don't push it, but people seem to be asking me. So I'm not actively pushing it, but at the end of the time, when I get asked to it, I answer it as a human being. But I'm a comedian. I don't like to be called an activist because I don't know even what the definition of an activist is anymore. But I speak my mind when people ask my opinion, and it seems if it resonates with people, it's not my fault that people that people label me as activist because I just say things that other people think.
Right. You are a voice. You've criticized Israel, obviously, the West. What about other Arab countries? I mean, your native country has a peace treaty with Israel, so does Jordan. Other Arab countries have concluded deals with Israel. Are you surprised that none of them have decided to go back on those agreements, given the emotion that the issue is creating in their own countries?
I'm not a politician, and I'm not here to comment on other bilateral agreement. As of course, as a person, I think that there should be more pushback from Arab countries. But again, this is again a kind of a distraction where you want to disperse and dilute the conversation, talking about other things while we ignore what is happening, which is the daily killing that's happening every day. So that is actually my main issue. But I find it like very interesting that like we waste the time of interviews talking about like what Arab countries should do, while the obvious culprit, which is Israel, should be held accountable for what it's doing every day.
Right. You've been critical of the Biden administration. Do you think Trump would be better?
No, I don't. It's not about that. It's just like it's when you say something bad, I say like, okay, let's keep that because we don't know if it's going to get worse. The voting system and the democracy system of the Western world is based on trust and based on the fact that like the candidate should earn the voter trust to vote for him. So far, I think the Biden administration did everything except earning our trust, earning our side, and basically they are spitting in our faces, saying that they don't care about Palestinians being dead. So the Arabs are like 1% Muslims, 3% of the U.S. population. I don't think we can hardly swing an election, maybe in a state or in one state, maybe. But at the end of the day, you cannot come and blame minorities for Trump winning, where 66% of the white vote go to Trump.
Right. You've been accused in speaking out of anti-Semitism. How do you react to that? Does it hurt you? Does it annoy you, or you don't care?
No. It became an empty accusation. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Came a time where the accusation anti-Semite would freeze the blood in people's vein. Not anymore, because now it's been overused and it's been manipulated and it's been actually abused. Now the anti-Semitism for them now it means like anti-Israel. And it's fine to be anti-Israel. People are anti-Britain, anti-US, anti-France, anti-Egypt, anti-Saudi Arabia, and nobody is throwing all kind of accusation against them because at the end of the day, I can be anti certain countries' policy if I don't agree with them. But when you call people anti, I mean, they call Jewish people anti-Semite. They call rabbis anti-Semite. They call Jonathan Glazer, who is a Jewish Israeli director who won the Oscar about a movie about the Holocaust. They call him an anti-Semite. Even there is a story about a French Jew called Stephen Hessel. Stephen Hessel joined the French resistance against the Nazi, and he was jailed in Auschwitz. And Stephen is, when he was really, you cannot get more Jewish than that. And he was the co-author of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the UN. And in 2021, he was called an anti-Semite because he supported Palestinian cause and supported BDS. And they willingly they just like they throw this away, so it doesn't matter anymore. I think this accusation of anti-Semite is now become a comical accusation. Doesn't mean anything. And by the way, I'm an Arab. I'm a Semite myself, so it's a very laughable accusation.
Speaking of that, I read that you bought the rights for a book inspired by a true story of an Egyptian doctor who saved 300 Jews from the Holocaust, including a little girl. Is this true? And is this maybe your way of answering those accusations?
No, I bought this rights even before all of that happens. I bought that rights in March last year. And I was chasing this book for 7 years. Because the Holocaust is not a Jewish story; it's a human story, and there is a big role of Arabs in Germany who would the Jews and the Arabs in Germany were actually very tight knit community, and they lived together, and all of that before the formation of Israel. I think the Israel actions are the biggest threat to Jews all over the world, and we need to put things in their own place. Because anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. And I'm an anti-Zionist. I think Zionism is a colonial, racist, and supremacist ideology, and it should not be put upon Jewish people to bear the sin of such a despicable movement.
Just as a conclusion, on a lighter note, if I may, you just turned 50 when you left Egypt, arrived in LA. I think I can say you went through some rough year. You probably thought you wouldn't make it back. You're in the middle of this Middle Beast tour. Are you definitely back?
No, I've been touring even before that. I mean, I have been doing my show even before the war started. What happened after the war, that I have, of course, more people coming to my show, which I'm very grateful. And it was being able to kind of expand even more to more countries and more cities. I love that, when I'm 50, I'm just turned 50, as you said, and I'm doing what I love, which is traveling and making people laugh. And to have your income and your money coming from that source, I think this is the greatest gift ever. And Paris, I came back to, I did a smaller room last year, 300 people. Now I'm coming to two bigger theaters in Paris, one of them on the 10th of April, and one of them is the 5th of May. And I'm very, very glad to meet the French audience again. It's been a wonderful experience last year, and I'm sure it's going to be even better this year.
Bassem Youssef, that's all we have time for. I want to thank you very much for your time, and thank you all for watching this edition of Tête à Tête here on France 24.